So I have been going through and binge listening to and watching Gigi Young's work on YouTube in regards to the evolution and the esoteric evolution of the planet and the beings and the evolution of the men in the form of men and women on this planet, and understanding the nature, the esoteric nature of the evolution of the form that we have in regards to the avatar for the soul to incarnate into on this planet. And also come to a point where I understand through her work, and you have to use your own discernment if you look at anyone's work, always, including mine, especially mine. But I'm only relating to people now what I'm experiencing through her work, and I implicitly trust her work because when I pass it through my heart vortex, which is my compass, my truth compass, in regards to my own personal truth, I feel like I'm listening to a true mystic that is giving information in a contemporary way that I can understand. And for me, when she talks about the nature of the form this form here that I occupy, this avatar that I have, and the nature of how the form is shifting and changing due to epochs and of course alignments within and the evolution of the planetary consciousness, the life stream, the cosmic consciousness, the solar system consciousness, and how planets evolve and shift and change through the evolutionary stream, their own life streams, and how forms change on those planets, macro, micro, due to the nature of the shifts and the changes. It's really quite buzzy for me to listen to what she has to say because of my own experience and my feeling around the UFO file and the beings that I've interacted with that are non-men and women that have come into my life over the years that are also distinguishable, with some of them being from the lower astral and other beings that have come into my life that are more angelic. And then of course there have been beings that have been in my life that I found in craft or my experiences with UFOs and objects in the sky, and of course my experience with the CE5 work, which I began in 2020. And what she's been explaining and detailing in her work has really fascinated me in regards to what I've experienced and how, for me, discerning about what I experienced in my life in regards to the beings I've interacted with, excuse me, and how my greater understanding of what the beings I've interacted with now gives me the knowledge, the gnosis, that a lot of the beings that I've interacted with are actually in tune with the life stream of the planet. Because if they weren't in the life stream of the planet, if they weren't a part of the life stream and the evolutionary cycle of our planet, they would not be able to come here or be here. They have to come through the sun. And if I get this wrong, I apologize. They have to come through our star, through our sun, and through our solar logos, through our sun, to come into our life stream and to come into our solar system, into our cosmic stream of the solar system's evolutionary path and life stream of the planets within our solar system. They have to come through our sun because that is the solar logos. That is where the information comes out of our sun, through the light, through the energy, through the resonance of the sun. So these beings have to come through our sun, through our star, come out of our star into this life stream of our solar system, because the sun is the energy which permeates all of the planets and moons and objects in the solar system. Our star does that. And if you look at this information in a very interesting way and a very detailed way, there are people that have come forward that say the stars in regards to suns are living plasma beings. Dr. Robert Temple's work, he believes that all the stars are super intelligent life forms of plasma life forms. And if you look at any of the ancient mystery texts all life is sentient, so therefore the stars are sentient beings. And the intelligence, I guess, in some level, if our galactic center, Alcyone, apparently was our galactic sun in our Milky Way galaxy, our central sun. If this is a highly intelligent being that's potentially ruminating and resonating with this energy of source or prime creator, then it's feeding that energy to all the other suns around it in our galaxy. So our sun is taking on information from Alcyone and then projecting it out into our solar system. So that these beings that might be non-men or women from other parts of the galaxy or beyond that come into our solar system have to enter into our solar system and our life stream through the sun. So I wonder if the interactions I've had with beings, how many of them are actually in the life stream of our planetary consciousness and our solar system, and have been in our solar system for a long time, and have never left our solar system, and have energetically moved between dimensions or frequencies, and have the ability to move between frequencies, and actually are a part of the Earth's life stream over the evolutionary process of our Earth's creation, or the solar system's creation. So therefore they can come into our planetary consciousness, onto our planet, and are visible to us, at least in the 3D sense. But they've been here long before the form we have now, this avatar, became more solid. In fact, they were here when the form was more gaseous or more liquidy or more jelly-like. So these beings could have been here for a lot longer than our form has been solid as it is today. So I wonder about how many of the beings that I've seen and interacted with, and there have been a number of them, and the beings in the craft they travel in. I wonder how many of these beings are actually Atlanteans that have left our planet, or Lemurians, or other civilizations that may have left our planet during the life stream cycle, and their bodies are less dense than our bodies are today in regards to us being in the evolutionary cycle that we are in. And these beings that are less dense than us have gone into other parts of the solar system or other dimensions or frequencies that overlap our frequency that we have now, that we exist in. And they have the ability through technology or through consciousness development to be able to move between dimensions, and that often a lot of the craft that I see, that my feeling has always been when I've done a lot of C5 work, and I've seen flashbulbs in the sky, or I've seen craft, that those craft aren't actually physical craft. They're, in my perception, they're like awareness, their consciousness projecting itself into this dimension, into this frequency band, and that consciousness takes on the form of a light or an object that looks like a bright light in the sky, but it's really just a pinpoint of consciousness making itself manifest as a green sphere, a green object, a sphere, or a green star-like object, or a white flashbulb, or a blue triangle moving across the sky that kind of skims across the sky, or a craft that I've seen that kind of stealths out and moves across. A lot of those craft I've always felt have been military-industrial complex defense contractors using craft or Atlantean technology that's been kept out of the public and has been by a small group of people that are in the life stream of our planetary consciousness, have taken those craft for themselves, taken that technology for themselves. And this is where you have the work of Walter Bosley and Dark Journalists and Dr. Joseph P. Farrell, who talk about the Nazi International, or the Atlanteans that survived the cataclysmic events of the end of the last ice age, that may have gone off world or gone into the planetary sphere itself, into pockets or dimensional pockets in the Earth's crust, in the Earth's mantle, and perhaps created breakaway civilizations within the Earth's mantle. And I think of Mac Tonney's books, the ultra-terrestrials, or is it ultra-terrestrials? I think it is. Where they are slightly more different, a little bit different than men or women in regards to their forms, but they're a little bit more advanced than we are, but they're occupying huge catacombs in the Earth's crust and the mantle of the Earth, or beneath the oceans, and the oceans basins and trenches have a whole civilizations down there and they're a little bit more further ahead than we are in regards to their civilization, so they have the ability to travel between dimensions, or they have the ability to build structures down in these places where we can only imagine, or the breakaway civilization that they have is in tune with a surface population of people that are interacting with them, and there's a technological exchange and a form of control from these other forces. And I wondered to myself, how many of these actual, these beings I've interacted with, how many of them, obviously they're on the live stream to be able to interact with me. They're not from another part of the galaxy, or if they are, they've traveled through our sun to get into the live stream of this solar system, and of course this planet to be here. So, or how many of these beings that interact with us, like the Greys, for example, and this is a big part of Gigi Young's work. She says that in her perspective, the Greys could be future human men and women like you and I that have gone down a transhumanist path, and due to that transhumanist path, have got to a place where they are no longer, their bodies are so attuned to what the use of technology and implantables into their bodies. They've changed their DNA and they've changed their genetic makeup to a point where they're no longer recognizable as the form that we have, but they were at one point, had the form that we have today. That transhumanist life stream, or life path, or path in general, they have the ability to travel from the future back to the past, or back to where we are today, the present moment, and interact with men and women in small cliques in order to get and make an exchange for DNA to try to do their best to fix their life stream, their path they took, and then that transhumanist path, and get more of a human form. And of course, if you follow Gigi Young's work, you understand that the Martians who on Mars, the black magicians on Mars, came to our planetary consciousness, came to our planetary sphere in the past, in the distant past, and they altered, according to her information, they altered the form, the debasing, the energetic form, that the de-evolutionary form from Lemuria of some humans, men or women, that were that had evolved back into an ape-like form. And these Martians who came from Mars, to these black magicians who wanted to survive and not go through the karma process and reincarnation process, came to our planet in antiquity. And when they came here, they tinkered with the ape-like form of the devolved men and women of the Lemurian continent, and altered that form so they could have a ability to incarnate into the life stream of our planetary consciousness, of our planetary life stream, our evolutionary process. And her work goes into great detail there, and I won't go into any more detail than that. I would suggest you look at her work and study her work and listen to what she says. I'm only giving you the tiniest little bit of a summary of what she said there. But it's really important when I think about this to wonder about the interactions that I've had, and I come back to this as well. How many of those civilizations, those beings I've interacted with over my entire life, how many of those were actually Atlanteans who recognize my essence, my soul, from my Atlantean lifetime, and have been interacting with me and going like, oh, we know who you are, we know who you were, and we know where you've come, where your soul, we recognize your soul's resonance from Atlantis, and we come back to communicate with you in a way that we do, that maybe, just maybe, on some level, pushes the right buttons at the right time for you to have the awakening process that you need to come to a place of deeper understanding, where you can have I wouldn't say retribution, because I've written about my retribution in the book Sanctum, which I wrote in 2001, 2002, and the various incarnations of that book, and the various revisions of that book. That book Sanctum by Amon Sueño and myself is a deeply personal experience about my feeling of how I find my own resolution, my atonement for my actions in Atlantis. But if those beings were Atlantean that came back, or came forward, or are here now from that lifetime, or from who knew who I was in that body, in that lifetime on Atlantis, and have come back and know my resonance and can find me and found me in my lifetime now, and their interactions with me have been essential for my awakening process. Wouldn't that be kind of wild? That would be wild that Atlanteans who knew me from that lifetime have come in this lifetime now, in this avatar that I'm in, recognize my resonance, and have come to me in my lifetime in ships, consciousness manifesting itself through CE5 work, which I've seen in flashbulbs, craft, and also interactions in a non-physical sense with beings that have been with me intimately, and intimately in other ways through telepathic messages and telepathic interactions. One event in particular, where I did a CE5 event with a bunch of people in the Wairarapa in 2020, a craft came down and landed, and I saw the craft come down behind a pine tree. I could see it stealthed out, coming down behind the pine tree. The beings of that craft, in my perception of them through my third eye, were Nordic-like beings, very tall Nordic-like beings. Could those have been Atlantean beings that I wrote about in Sanctum, that came back, and they were very peaceful, very loving, very inquisitive. When I went back to the guest house, well, back to the hut, so it wasn't a guest house, it was a hut. Well, it was the hut we were staying at that night. There was 8 of us in the hut that night. The amount of flashbulbs that we saw in the sky in about 2 or 3 hours, if you know what the C5 work is in the flashbulb situation, you know that it basically there's like lights going off in the sky like flashbulbs, and they're like interacting with us. The amount of flashbulbs we saw in the sky was unbelievable. There were thousands of them. Thousands of flashbulbs going off for hours after the event that we did in a group of about 21, 22 people in our group together doing CE5 work. And when we went back to the hut we were staying at that night, I had a clear telepathic message, not to go into one of the rooms where my bunks were, but to sleep in front of the fireplace in the kitchen, dining room area, where there were 2 doors, French doors, opening up onto a deck where we'd been looking at the flashbulbs in the sky. I had a clear telepathic message: sleep in front of the fire in the dining room area. I did that night. And I remember lying on the floor in front of the fireplace. It was blazing away, lights were off, beautiful light in there. And I looked at my periphery and saw 3 Nordic-like beings standing in the door and the French doors, all smiling at me. And I heard a message: we will heal. We will heal you when you sleep. We will heal you. We will heal you. We will heal you. And I remember just going out. I sunk down to my body and immediately went to sleep. Woke up the next day and felt euphoric. Were those Atlanteans from that lifetime, or beings that were around in Atlantis, who were in that life stream, that recognized my resonance from that lifetime, and recognized what I did in that lifetime, most importantly, and came back and said, hey, you're doing the work, you're atoning for your sins, and yet in that lifetime, and we're here to help you on an energetic level to heal maybe the repercussions of your actions from that lifetime. A very interesting perspective, and one I owe a huge amount of gratitude to Gigi Young for her work, because this has opened up for me many doors of perception around what is possible, and an understanding of the alien situation. And I now have this deeper knowledge that the aliens that supposedly are visiting here, a majority of them could have been here long before this form became solid, and could actually be relatives or friends or connections that we have made in other lifetimes coming back to visit us. Pretty cool, eh? Thanks for watching, I truly appreciate it. Mate ua. I'll see you again soon.